I've always maintained the soul is not something destined for a mythical paradise, but a force that can be isolated and contained here on this earth. My colleague said I was insane, but here is the proof. Insane, am I? Alive is he!
What is the price of knowledge? For the scientists and engineers of Mars, power is not found in armies, planets, and conquests. The greatest strength of humanity is wisdom. Wisdom gleaned from using holy technologies and sacred machines. But the holy quest of machine worship and the progress of knowledge can overtake the human mind. A blasphemous addiction to novelty and experimentation could purge even the most fanatical soul of its purity. What is left is vile husk of meat and machine known as the heretic. The loose coalition of arch-traitors, insane scientists, cyber-slaves, and warp-tainted Skitarii are known to the savants of humanity as the Dark Mechanicus. Long ago, during the Dark Age of technology, Mars had long been established as a sister world of Terra, the twin planet of man, an equal force in mankind's colonization and conquest of the stars. During that time period, mankind had achieved its greatest heights of power and glory, much of which was due to the incredible tech achievements of the great Martian innovators and scientists. They created the Standard Template Construct, a form of artificially intelligent computer, supposedly containing the sum of all human knowledge. They also created mankind's greatest weapon, greater even some say than the Space Marines themselves, the Men of Iron, a robotic army of intelligent machines that allowed humanity to conquer vast tracts of space, and even conclude a peace settlement with the barbaric orcs. In the ancient days before the stagnation of empire, the fabricators of Mars were the bearers of godly weapons that were even more powerful perhaps than the Emperor's own legions. It was the indomitable will of the Emperor of mankind that forced the Martians to be subordinate to himself and the Imperium. Even though Mars and Mars alone received privileges and freedoms no other planet in the galaxy was allowed, there was still rage and bitterness among the tech priests. During the Great Crusade, Martian manufactorums churned out armaments to fuel the exterminatory war to unite humanity under the banner of the God Emperor. The Emperor, though he was the greatest human to ever live, was still just a man and subject to human failings. One of those failings was the inability to see the seething storm of hatred and resentment building up across his glorious Imperium. It was not merely the Space Marines and the War Master Horus that revolted, there were huge sections of Imperial society that joined in the rebellion. The Martians were no exception. Horus Lupercal sent his representative to Kelbor Hall, the Fabricator General of Mars, and thus the leader of the entire Mechanicum. Kelbor Hall listened as lies and promises were dripped like acid into the tangle of artificial synapses and neural cogitators that was once his mind. Horus fed the beast of resentment that burned at the fiercely proud and independent soul of the Mechanicus. Betray the Emperor and all of the pathways, all of the locked doors of thought and research would be open to Mars. Enough to find the pathway to the machine god himself. Who was this arrogant Terran who ordered Mars the mighty, Mars the devoted servant of understanding and knowledge, to bend the knee to a single human? With dreams of the glorious Martian Empire being resurrected, Kelbor Hall agreed to support the War Master and betray the Emperor. Thus began the Schism of Mars. The Schism of Mars was the great divide between the chaos-tinged heretics and the tech priests who remained loyal to the Emperor. The Civil War was as terrible and ensanguined with the blood of brothers as the rest of the Horus heresy. Horus had provided Kelbor Hall with the key to unlock the dreaded Vaults of Moravec, a dank tomb of technology so dangerous that they had been buried lest the danger they posed corrupt the minds of man. Even the Emperor himself dared not open the doors to the vaults. The outlawed tech included Xenos weapons, chaos-tinged computers, and even the dreaded abominable intelligence, once known as artificial intelligence. Moravec was the father of what became the unofficial creed of the Dark Mechanicus. The main perversion of Mechanicum doctrine included using the help of the chaos demons of the warp to make technology so advanced it defied the laws of physics and nature. Eventually, humankind would achieve the glorious merging of man and machine promised by the machine god through chaos sorcery and corruption of flesh by warp gods. Moravec knew that no bars can be placed, no doors locked in the quest for knowledge. Everything must be explored and the darkest pathways trod to achieve the pinnacle of knowledge, even if that pinnacle requires sinking down into the blackest pits of evil. The mind pays no attention to miserable boundaries of good and evil set forth by petty, weak men. Knowledge is beyond good and evil. a force to be harnessed, captured, and tamed by the most powerful minds, regardless of the so-called moral price. To the opening of these vaults can the true birth of the Dark Mechanicus be traced. With these unholy artifacts at their disposal, the Dark Mechanicus fell on their brothers. The poisoned landscape of Mars was choked with nuclear mushroom clouds, pierced by the electronic screams of dying Scutari that stained the already crimson soil of Mars red with oceans of blood. Even the mighty Legio Titanicus divided itself and rained down hate in the name of the War Master. Countless thousands of cogitators, libraries, and ancient repositories of irreplaceable knowledge were scoured from the planet in the homicidal fury of the traitors. A loyalist relief force was barely able to secure access to power armor and other war material they desperately needed before hastily departing the planet. Only the death of the War Master and the breaking of the traitors on Terra turned the tide against the evil tech priests. The Heresiarch, Kelbor Hall, and the rest of the Dark Mechanicus fell back with the other traitors deep into the Eye of Terror. They took with them innumerable artifacts, machines, weapons, and unspeakable mysteries of the warp to continue their research. Freedom, true freedom, outside the shackles of dogma foisted upon them by the Cult Mechanicus. It became a reality at last. Shielded by the evil of the warp and protected by the Chaos Space Marines, the scientists were finally able to build their own society based around absolute wisdom and exploration. The Dark Mechanicus carved out a domain in chaos-infested planets, building mighty forge worlds with the help of the ruinous powers. There they remain to this day, dreaming of ghastlier perversions with the help of demons from the warp. The Long War, the Chaos War ever on the minds of some, waiting to take their black crusades here, to destroy us all in the name of their perverted machine god. Their minds wander beyond the walls set up by their orthodox brothers and inevitably find their souls seized by hellish ideas.
Out there operating without any decent restraint, totally beyond the pale of any acceptable human conduct, and he is still in the field commanding troops.
The Dark Mechanicus is not, as it is sometimes presented, a unified force like the Adeptus Mechanicus. The heretical tech priests of the Eye of Terror are only loosely affiliated with one another. They may band together to fight a common threat, but mostly each world is run independently, and they occasionally war against one another or other forces of chaos. Some of the Dark Mechanicus see the Machine God and his Omnissiah as manifestations or avatars of the Chaos Gods. Others no longer worship any deity and focus entirely on their wicked inventions. Perhaps most dangerously are a small group of fallen tech priests who know of the Satan called the Void Dragon. The ancient god-like being is almost certainly, they believe, the real manifestation of the machine god worshipped by the Mechanicus since ancient times. If this hideous creature was ever woken, it would be an unstoppable juggernaut to the very heart of the Imperium. If a Dark Mechanicus heretic ever decided to free the creature within, to unchain the machine god imprisoned by the false corpse emperor, it would conceivably destroy the Imperium in one blow. Even the Emperor himself was unable to destroy the Void Dragon, and it sits at the very heart of the Mechanicus, waiting perhaps to be released and annihilate Mars and Terra. The dark forge worlds owned by these heretics are gruesome wastelands of industrialized sorcery. A half-step of hell with the infernal mills of industry have generated toxic conditions even worse than the mechanized hive worlds of the Imperium. Great clouds of soot and smoke cover the atmosphere of these planets like a funeral shroud. Giant manufactorum worked over by robotic slave creatures, their cogitators whispering with chaos-infested orders from the damned produce the armaments and ammunition. The traitor legions and chaos cultists need to prosecute their war against mankind. The Black Crusades would never succeed without production quotas on the Dark Forge worlds being met. The millions of servitors, cyber slaves, and demonic concoctions work for the glory of chaos to build ever more hideous mixtures of man and machine. Great coiled tendrils of machine wire and code infest these human forms. The Dark Mechanicus has taken the old creed's desire to merge man with machine to an unprecedented level. Some of the manufacturers general of the Dark Forge world scarcely appear human even to the transhumanist Martians, and what remains of their flesh is often blessed by the putrid maledictions of the Chaos Gods. What evil innovations and chaos mutations pursued in the laboratories of the Dark Mechanicus cannot be known until the weapons are unleashed on the Emperor's soldiers. And by then it's likely too late to stop the cybernetic heresies and genetic monstrosities. The Dark Forge worlds have the advantage of unfettered research into alien artifacts and may potentially rediscover the lost arts of ancient civilizations. The Loyalists have only faith in the Emperor to ward off the curses of innovation. Even more heinous are the Hell Forges, demon worlds half-bound to the warp in which every possible nightmare of chaos is given fleshy life. A place where suffering and souls are the currency and the resources used to generate the insane visions of deranged tech sorcerers. Blood is the grist for these black manufactorums, and the souls of the innocent are the energies powering the dark machines. Cyber sorcery merges with an insatiable desire for thralls from real space, to push the realm of chaos farther into our world. Magic and science become entwined to birth the ugly hordes of mechanical chaos. The ultimate blasphemy of tech heresy makes the dark netherworld of the Chaos Gods a dream no longer. One of the most awe-inspiring blasphemies of the Dark Mechanicus is the creation of the so-called Obliterators. These mighty fusions of man, magic, and machine stand taller even than the Chaos Marine and Terminator armor. Their bodies are believed to have been infected with a demonic virus that puts their cells in a state of constant flux, thus allowing them to merge continually with any weapon and produce any heavy weapon from the folds of their writhing flesh. Obliterators are almost unstoppable war machines that gladly annihilate entire planets, searching for archaeotech to feed their warp-tainted bodies. What else besides these arcano-cyborgs are being built in the depths of space by machine men operating without any godly restraint is enough to send shudders down the spine of even an Inquisitor? Over 15,000 years ago, the ancient sins of mankind almost ruined our race during the Dark Age. And it was a Dark Age because our ancestors had access to and exploitation of technology. Technology unguided by the light and structures of the Credo Omnissiah and the holy mandates of the God Emperor. The Dark Mechanicus, despite their wisdom, their machines, their experiments, their Xenos tech and Chaos tech, are the least educated people in the galaxy. Even though they reach Olympian heights of power from unearthing the relics of dead empires, they refuse to understand the gift of wisdom given to us by the Emperor. Be afraid of the future, be afraid of change, and never speak the loathsome word innovation. The Imperium must remain now as it was from the beginning, with no progression to something new or different, which will always be dangerous and terrifying. The lightning-fast tech advancements of the past are of course a sign of chaos, of change from the heart of the warp itself. The closest humanity ever came to be utterly destroyed was not the Horus Heresy. No, it was the dreadful revolt of the Men of Iron, the abominable intelligence crafted by scientists for the so-called progress of mankind. Progress that was almost certainly infected with the stain of chaos and nearly drove mankind into extinction at the bloody mechanical claws of robo-warriors. Far out beyond the reach of the Inquisition and the Mechanicus lay mankind's deadliest enemies. Not the hordes of traitor legions or the writhing Xenos monstrosities, it's man himself, perverted into a demonic machine. The loathsome weak flesh made strong to do more evil. The holy form of mankind is allowing itself to be blasphemed in the most visceral and carnal way imaginable by the toiling of the Dark Mechanicus. These cybernetic humans with artificial limbs and synapses create ever more demented gene atrocities, living sacks of meat filled with harvested human organs known as golems, Xenos flesh and organs grafted onto the human form, or perhaps creating machines that both draw and provide power to the Chaos Gods themselves. Humanity, for all its achievements, its conquests, its innumerable victories over the countless billions of Xenos vermin, is lost in a quagmire. For 10,000 years, thousands of generations of man have lived and died with almost no change. Like cavemen of old, human technology is frozen along one path. Someone needs to take the plunge into the unknown, take the first steps into the new and wondrous. Without that, the results are plain to see: a race of idiots, calcified bureaucracy, superstition awash in ignorance. The Dark Mechanicus sees themselves as the spearhead of intellect, totally justified in doing anything, no matter how vile, no matter how blasphemous, for the most holy cause of the Machine God and his Omnissiah, knowledge. And the knowledge they seek, that they find, that they turn against us as a potent tool of ruination. Just as the advancements of civilization in the past brought us great good, but also poison gas, thermonuclear missiles, and weaponized anthrax, the heretics of the Dark Mechanicus are driving us inexorably towards our own destruction in the name of progress. The 41st millennium is known as the Time of Ending, a time when mankind is reaching the apotheosis of its power and glory, only to be utterly torn apart by war and strife. But the most dangerous enemy of mankind is mankind itself. The scientists of the Dark Mechanicus are the most reckless, the most chaotic, the most terrible gamblers with fate. They are too smart to be tricked, to be misled by the warp. They know how dangerous it is and how often it has been corrupted and destroyed things in the past. Yet they, the brightest assets of humanity, take the ultimate roll of the dice and work with them anyway. Not just for greed, not just for power, not just for glory, but for curiosity. To sate their own genius. Merely to know, to learn, and to understand, something these black-hearted, half-machine creatures will risk everything for. An entire race, dozens of planets of Pandoras, all waiting to open their own boxes. They're willing to surrender their own souls, to pervert their bodies with weird chaos machines and demons. Drive themselves insane, brutalize their fellows into slavery, and gamble with the very existence of mankind itself. All to sate their own lust for knowledge. For if the abominable intelligences or sentient golas or machine perversions ever get out of control again, it will be the end of humanity, and the beginning of total enslavement to a bizarre demonic machine, all in the name of that strange, horrible, potentially blasphemous creature called knowledge.